Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We're doing some race day prep on the Mustang. I got a few little things to address before tomorrow. We're going to Buttonwillow. First is, I got this roll bar mount for my phone to film and also to use a Track Addict app, which films and records lap times, G-forces, speeds, and stuff like that. And I bought this roll bar mount, super nice CNC aluminum part, and the ball on the end of it was too small for my RAM phone mount. So what I ended up doing is the ball bolted on. So I removed the ball mount from the original suction cup mount for the phone and drilled through it, put a bolt in there. It's a 1/4-20. Super shocked. I was not expecting standard measurement hardware on this. I figured it was Chinese. So anyways, 1/4-20, had a longer bolt, drilled a hole through the RAM mount for the suction cup and bolted it on. So I'm going to try out this location up here with the mount hanging down like that. Originally I was going to do it on this bar, but then I thought maybe that's too low and you won't really see much out the front. But now I think this one, the rear view mirror, is going to block a bunch of the view. So I'm going to try it out, see how it looks. I can move it around obviously if I don't like it, but anyways, that's what we're doing. I got to bleed the brakes, change the oil, give the car a once over, and yep, we'll be going to the track first thing in the morning. So super excited. A bunch of friends are going. It's going to be a ton of Mustangs there, more specifically S197s, which is pretty neat to see. And anyways, yeah, let's get all this stuff done and we'll take it off for a drive and see what the camera view looks like. All right, so I just got the oil change. I'm using the Mobile One 1550. Letting it warm up a little bit. Then I'm gonna check the level. I got 7 quarts in it right now. It's also got an oil cooler, so it takes more than a stock one. But anyways, just giving it a once over, change the oil. I looked at the oil in a clear bin when I emptied it out of the motor. Everything looked really good, so I'm always worried that the motor's coming apart, but it looked really clean, so let it warm up. Alright, so I ended up right at 8 quarts. So 8 quarts is, I like to run a little bit extra oil for road racing. This car doesn't have a baffled oil pan, so you get oil slosh in corners and acceleration and braking. You know, the oil just kind of goes everywhere. And if you run it towards the low end of the range on the dipstick, you'll end up starving the motor of oil in those conditions. So I like to run past the full mark, the top full mark, by about 1/4 of an inch to 3/8 of an inch. And then, you know, people say, well, what about, you know, foaming the oil and stuff? Look, this has a windage tray from the factory. I'm not concerned about foaming the oil, especially on a road course where the motor is at 4,000 to 6,000 RPM almost the whole time. So the oil's literally flying everywhere in the motor, and there's hardly anything in the bottom of the pan just because there's so much oil being pumped that it takes a long time for everything to drain back. And so basically what you end up having is oil starvation issues if you don't run enough oil. So on the street, could there potentially be some contact at the crank and the oil? Probably not. Honestly, I'm not super worried about it. It's not way overfilled. It's not like I got an inch too high of fluid. I got this much too high of fluid, so I'm not worried about it. But it is a little extra insurance in my mind to run a little extra oil, so that way when it sloshes, it still picks up. So I don't have a real oil pressure gauge in the car, so I really don't know. But I know that my friends that have oil pressure gauges, especially under braking conditions, the G-forces from the braking conditions takes the oil away from the pickup, and they'll run into not zero oil pressure, but it definitely drops below normal because it's picking up air. So it's picking up some oil, but also some air, which is not good. So Anyways, trying to avoid that, I run a little extra oil. So, like I don't know if you could hear me earlier, but I checked. When I emptied the oil out, I emptied it into a clean, clear container first. Not all of it, but some of it, just so I could take a look at the oil. I warmed the car up a little bit before I dumped it, but just to get everything mixed up in there, just if there was any contaminants, metal, whatever. So I looked at it. It looks super clean, probably as nice of oil as I've ever seen come out of this motor. I always look at it just because I don't do oil analysis. I should. It scares me. I don't really want to know if it's coming apart, but at the same time, I still want to kind of know what's going on with the motor. So took a good look at it out in the sunlight, and it looks really good. So I didn't notice anything shiny, anything sparkly. There's no milkiness to it. And the oil didn't have a lot of miles, probably only had 1,000 miles on it, but pretty hard 1,000 miles. I changed it when I did the head rebuild and all that, so there could have been some contaminants in there from having the motor apart. So I did change it once, right after. I did like, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, 20 minutes of runtime when I first put the heads back on, changed it, so it's had, mostly the heads re-breaking in and all that stuff. There's not much to break in. Valve guides is pretty much it. But anyways, yeah, so oil looked great. I'm going up to 1550 oil. I've run it before. I usually run 1040 or 1030, but I decided to go 1550 because this motor, even though it only has like 70,000 miles on it, it's had a very hard life. So bearing clearances are probably larger than they should be at this many miles. So I figured, well, I'll run a little thicker oil. And yeah, I know my friend Nico, who also has a 3-valve, runs 50 weight in his motor, so I think he runs straight 50 weight. So excuse me. So running a 1550 is probably a little thinner than straight 50, but anyways, oil's changed. Just got to bleed the brakes. I got some extra fluid over here because I'll have to refill the reservoir once I bleed, but basically I bleed into this little cup right here. Yeah, so I bleed it into this little glass container here, and not that it really matters what it looks like to me because I'm not going to change anything unless I see anything really bad, but I dump it in there, or I bleed it into there with this hose, which is actually a piece of model airplane fuel line. And yeah, gotta bleed the brakes. I always do that before I go to the track. I don't use super high-end fluid like most guys do. This is just synthetic .4 Valvoline, so I flush it every time just because if it is cooked, I want to make sure it's not in there before I go racing. So you'll notice the pads haven't fully seated yet. I don't drive hard on brakes at all around town. I hardly even use them. So these will probably end up getting bedded in on my warm-up lap when we go out to race tomorrow. So anyways, and the reason they're not fully bedded in is because these aren't new pads. These are the pads that were on here with the old discs. So these discs are brand new. Not brand new, but they've been surfaced, or resurfaced I should say. So yeah, the pads need a little time to break. I could have sanded them flat, but I'm like, I'll just leave them. So same thing with the back's in the same situation. So I'll probably bed them in a little bit on the way down to the track tomorrow, just to kind of get them worn in without getting them too hot. And then yeah, the first session in the morning will be full on go time. So anyways, got all that done. Just gotta bleed the brakes, give the tires a good once over, make sure they're still good. I'm sure they're fine. And anyways, bolt it all back up, torque the wheels, take it out for a test drive, check out this new camera position we got, and make sure everything's kosher. And yeah, we'll be ready for tomorrow. Stoked. All right, so I got the brakes bled and wheels, tires back on, torqued. I ended up putting the 25mm spacers on front. I had the 20s, and the clearance to the strut was just really close. So I said, well, better safe than sorry. I'll put 25s on it for now and see what the fender clearance is like. And honestly, it's not bad. I did a little hammer handle fender pulling. So these factory fenders are already rolled, so the edge is already rolled up like that. But what I did was I essentially stretched out the fender, so you can kind of see it. It's normally just straight across there, so I pulled it out to where it peaks more like around here, so it gives me a little more room in the cornering when the wheels turned so where it's not hitting. I mean, I can just about fit my whole hand in there right now as it sits static. Obviously, things change in corners, bumps mid-corner and stuff, but anyways, you can kind of see the curvature of the fender is not straight anymore, so it's definitely pulled out. It looks to have decent amount of clearance, so I'm happy I tried it, because even with the 25s on here, I can't get a finger in between the strut and the tire, so it's really tight. It's probably only 3 or 4 millimeters for the space. So anyways, yeah, we're done. We're gonna go take it for a little drive, bed these brakes in a little bit, make sure everything's good, check out this camera position, and yeah, so let's go for a quick little rip. Might take one of the curvy roads a little bit, just to kind of feel out the tires. This is the first time I've driven it, and it's not super cold. It's probably in the 50s right now, so like mid to upper 50s. Last time I drove it, when I first put them on, it was like 40 something. So anyways, let's go take it for a rip. Alright, so there's a lot of drone with this setup, just above 2,000, so it gets a little loud, but this is the first time being really strapped in. I'm just kind of giving it a shot and see what it feels like. Since last year when I went to the track last time, so